Shalom Aleichem, Kal Yisrael. How's your peace, Israel? Welcome back to another video. And we're coming through a quick study just through the spirit. As we know, there's certain things that have taken place in the four corners of the earth, and I wanted to just touch upon something that's actually I've read before, but it's ever so important to just regurgitate such things at this particular present time. And we're going to pick up in the book of Genesis, chapter 15, right? And the topic here is God's covenant with Abraham, okay? We're going to read in from verse 12, right? And it reads on this way. It says, As the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abraham, and behold, dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, Know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants there. And they will be afflicted for 400 years. But I will bring judgment on the nation that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. Okay? So, Abraham has been given a promise by the Father that his seed is going to go into captivity. And they're going to serve a particular nation, right? But when the 400 years is over, he's going to judge that nation, and then his seed's going to come out of great substance. So my question is, what are the signs of this prophecy? What does judgment look like? You see, where did this 400-year period take place? Who's been in captivity for 400 years? These are the questions one needs to ask ourselves to really gather some understanding about what was told to Abraham. Okay? And one way we can actually dissect this is try to figure out, what nations have ever had a people in captivity. Okay? Because that would then allow us to know who is being judged. So, we're going to go into the book of Daniel, or Daniel. We're just going to read a little excerpt, about a particular vision, okay, or dream, let's just say. Okay? And we're going to go and pick it up in chapter 2, verse 31. And it reads on this wise, right? It says, You saw, O king, and behold, a great image. The image mighty and of exceeding brightness stood before you, and its appearance was frightening. The head of this image was fine gold, right? Its chest and arms of silver, its middle and thighs of bronze, its legs of iron, its feet partly of iron and partly of clay. Okay? So, this is a dream Nebuchadnezzar has received. He's received this dream, and he doesn't understand what the dream meant. And Daniel, through the blessings of Yahweh, had gave him the ability to interpret the dream. Okay? And Daniel goes to further to explain when we go down the further verse 35. He reads and he says, oh, actually, verse 36. He says, "This was the dream, and now we'll tell the king its interpretations." He says, "You king, the king of kings, to whom the God of heaven has given the kingdom, the power and the might and glory, and into whose hand he has given. Wherever they dwell, the children of man, the beasts of the field, and the birds of the heavens make you rule over them. All you, rule of them all, rule over them all. You are the head of gold." So that was Babylon. He was currently, the king of Babylon. It says, "Another kingdom inferior to you shall arise after you." Right? And it says, "And yet a third kingdom of bronze." Right? So we've got, if we look back, we see you've got the head of gold, which was Babylon. Right? Then we've got the chest and arms of silver. Now, if we understand the historical account of the kingdoms that came after Babylon, one would know or could look into other scriptural accounts. Let's see if I can get some here. Actually, we could actually even stay in the book of Daniel. Okay, so we see we've gathered an understanding that you see Daniel mentioned that the head of gold was Babylon, right? So we had now the silver, uh, the silver chest and arms, right? Now I'm gonna read. We're in the book of Daniel. I'm gonna start from uh, let me read. One second. Okay, so I found it. Don't know why it took me so long to find it. This is chapter 5, right? Uh, can't seem to find it. Okay, I found it. I don't know why it's taking me so long today. Um, yeah, so we noticed that in Babylon was the head of gold. Then we're now looking at the silver chest and then what silver arms, right? Now, if we were to fast forward and we look in the time of Belshazzar, right? This is when Daniel uh, was called to, interpret a particular message that was written on the wall. Okay, and this information here we can utilize to help us gather an understanding about who is the set, who is the what, the body of silver and arms, right? And it reads in verse 13 of chapter 5. It says, "Then Daniel was brought in before the king. The king answered and said to Daniel, 'You are that Daniel, one of the exiles of Judah, whom the king my father brought from Judah. I have heard of you that the spirit of gods is in you, and that light and understanding and excellent wisdom are found in you.' He says, 'Now the wise men, the enchanters, have been brought in before me to read this writing and make known to me its interpretation, but they could not show me the interpretation of the matter. But I have heard that you can give interpretations and solve problems. Now, if you can read the writing and make known to me its interpretations, you shall be clothed with purple and have a chain of gold around your neck, and shall be third ruler in the kingdom.'" Okay? Now, if we skip down, we're going to read from verse 24, right? It says, "Then from his presence the hand was sent, and his writing was inscribed. And this is the writing that was inscribed: Mene, Mene, Tekel, Parsin, Parsin, yeah. This is the interpretation of the matter. Mene, God has numbered the days of your kingdom and brought it to an end. Tekel, you have been weighed in the balances and found wanting. Perez, your kingdom is divided and given to the Medes and the Persians." Okay? So what did we just read? Did we not just read that the head of gold was Babylon? Okay? And it said that it mentioned that in verse chapter 2 verses 39, it says, "Another kingdom inferior to you shall arise after you." Okay? So this kingdom, the Medes and the Persians, right? Medio-Persia, this is the breast of silver and arms, right? These are the Medio-Persians are the ones that are going to take over Babylon. Now, why is this important? I'm not just reading this historical account just for the sake of, fulfilling something to do in my evening. But if you can look and understand the world stage as we know right now, this time period here, this was what we class as physical Babylon, right? But currently on this earth, there is actually a spiritual Babylon. Okay? We can prove it. We can go to the book of Revelations, right? Book of Revelations is after the time of Belshazzar and Nebuchadnezzar, right? He's dealing with the time, right? This is dealing with a time more recent, actually well, the time this was Yochanan or John. He was the one that actually, wrote the book of Revelations, but he actually is spoken about this Babylon, right? And we need to just take an understanding about the scripture that he reads in the book of Ecclesiastes, right? Which I'm going to read actually, just so that we understand where we're at in this thing. Right? This just brings it home a little bit. Okay, so let's read it. We're in the book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 1, right? And we're going to read it in verse 9. And it reads on this side, it says, "What has been is what will be." Okay? And what has been done is what will be done. And there is nothing new under the sun. Okay? Is there a thing of which it is said, "See, this is new"? It has already been already in the ages before us. Okay? There is no remembrance of the former things, nor will there be any remembrance of later things, yet to be among those who come after. Okay, so the idea of what this is basically referring to is that there is nothing new under the sun. So when we see Nebuchadnezzar receiving this dream of the statue, this is again another foreshadow of things to come. Because not only did the Babylon at that particular time get overthrown by the Medo-Persians, which was the silver chest with the arms, right? Or the breasts, right? But this spiritual Babylon that we're going to talk about is also going to get overthrown by the Medo-Persians. Let's read something. It says, "After this I saw another angel coming down from heaven, having a great authority, and the earth was made bright with his glory. And he called out with a mighty voice, 'Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling place for demons, and a haunt for every unclean spirit, a haunt for every unclean bird, and a haunt for every unclean and detestable beast. For all nations have drunk the wine of her passion, of her sexual immorality, and the kings of the earth have committed immorality with her, and the merchants of the earth have grown rich from the power of her luxurious living.'" I wonder who's benefited and is drunken the wine of her fornication. You know, what country has caused there to be a McDonald's in every single, you know, major city, or Coca-Cola and to be in every major city? These things you gotta kind of understand that many of these nations have been in bed with this Babylon, spiritual Babylon, as it is referring to here, right? Mystery Babylon, right? The mother of harlots. Okay? So when you can precept and understand that the Babylon that we're talking about in Nebuchadnezzar's time was a foreshadow of the Babylon that was going to be in the times we're in now, this Babylon is going to get overthrown by the same people that overthrew the Babylon in that time. And why is that important? Well, if anyone understands who the Medo-Persians are, they're the ones that are actually starting to make war with the land of Israel. And the people in that land that call themselves, but are not, but are the synagogue of. So you can see that this is very clear that there's nothing new under the sun, because the Father is actually, he's actually using the same people that destroyed the Babylon back in those times to come and wreak havoc and destroy the Babylon of this time. So I just want to go back to the scripture that we read from the very beginning, and that was in the book of Genesis. This is just a bite-sized study, and I really do apologize for the pause in the middle. You know, sometimes me trying to find these scriptures, especially in the darkness that I'm in right now, I could get more light, but I don't want to move too much. We're going to go back to the Genesis here, and we'll read it again, okay? Read chapter 15, verse 12, right? It says, as the sun was going down, a deep sleep fell on Abraham, and behold, a dreadful and great darkness fell upon him. Then the Lord said to Abraham, know for certain that your offspring will be sojourners in a land that is not theirs, and will be servants. Who who are these people that are servants and are in a land that is not theirs? It was taken to a land that was not theirs, right? And there they will be afflicted for 400 years. When was the first recorded slave that was taken to America? If anyone was to go and research, you're going to find that it was in 1619, hit the coast of Brazil, right? If you count 400 years after that, you're going to see that it hits 2019. 2019, if anyone searches in Google the phrase, the commemoration of 400 years of slavery, you're going to find that it's actually recorded and documented that 2019 was the 400 year commemoration of slavery. I don't find that no coincidence. I believe that's divine timing, divine order, that the Father had to find a way, not only for those that already were in the loop to understand what time it was, but even for those that are not in the loop to really be able to just see it plain upon tables, that even the very people that, you know, had us in captivity, let's just say, they have also recognized the biblical narrative to the cutoff period. So, what does that mean? Well, if 2019 was the end of the 400-year captivity, it says, but I will bring judgment on the nations that they serve, and afterwards they shall come out with great possessions. So, what are we seeing now on the world stage? Huh? What are we seeing in this world stage right now? We're seeing things that are making it. Apologies, I just want to get a bit more light in here. Yeah, what are we seeing on the world stage right now? We're seeing we're seeing wars, rumors of wars, right? Should we not get that in the Book of Matthew? Let's get that. Let's see if I can find it. Right. Let's go. We're coming from verse chapter 24, right? Verses 3. Okay, it says, as he sat on, this is the Mashiach speaking, right? Or, well, yeah, he's going to speak shortly, right? It says, this is the signs of the end of the age, right? It says, as he sat on Mount Olives, the disciples came to him privately, saying, tell us, when will these things be? What will be the sign of your coming and the end of the age? And it says, Jesus answered them, see that no one leads you astray, for many will come in my name, saying, I am Christ, and they will lead many astray. And you will hear wars, rumors of wars. See that you are not alarmed, for this must take place. But the end is not yet. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. And there'll be famines and earthquakes in various places. All these are but the beginning of birth pains. Okay? Then they will deliver you up to tribulation and put you to death, and you will be hated by all the nations for my name's sake. Why? Is this not because this is the judgment that is taking place on the earth? He's going to judge the nations that we served, and we're going to come out of great possessions. Are we not going to be in a better light than everything that is actually occurring around us? You know, the nations will be judged, yet we will be coming out of our captivity with great possessions. Is that not a reason for people to dislike us? Right? Because there's nothing that we're doing that's, you know, going to cause anyone to stumble. We don't have no weapons of warfare. Our weapons of warfare are not carnal. Right? Those are truly following the Father's instructions. We're not a harmful people. We're actually supposed to we're a kingdom of priests. We're a holy nation. We're supposed to be making disciples of all nations. So what have we got to be uh what have we got to do in this whole thing? We're a peaceful people, right? He says what? He says that you and says that and then many will fall away and betray one another and hate one another, and many false prophets will rise and lead many astray. And because lawlessness will be in because sorry and because lawlessness will be increased, the love of many will grow cold. Is that not what we're seeing in this day and age now? The love of many will grow cold. I'm seeing that all the time, man. You know, people are here, you know, you see them, but there is no that same love and care for your neighbor that you can see walking around, anyone that you see on the street. There isn't really much there anymore. You know, back when I was younger, there's a lot more people were a lot more upbeat. You could easily spark a conversation with a stranger a lot easier than these days, I'd say. But yeah, let me just finish off. And it says, but the one who endures until the end will be saved. And those and this gospel of the kingdom will be proclaimed throughout the whole world as a testimony to all nations, and then the end will come. Okay? So, why have I got on here today to just, you know, talk about the prophecy of Abraham and the 400-year captivity? Well, this is what is really happening. Okay? The children of Israel have gone into captivity, taken a portion from the coast of West Africa. They fled from, or we fled, let's just say, from Israel, to be specific, Jerusalem. Okay? We fled to the mountains. The mountains is what we class as Egypt, right? Because the Romans were coming from the northern region. So we would not have fled north, right? We fled south. We went into Egypt. They did not have jurisdiction to be able to come into Africa and to start taking people, especially the fact that we were of melanated hue. So it was difficult for anyone to find the children of Israel that were being persecuted, or let's say chased, right? So we fled into Africa. Some went south towards Uganda's direction, and some went further north, and then we all ended up pretty much on the west coast of Africa. This then deals with the prophecy of in the book of Revelations that will be preserved for a times and a half a time, right? Where the woman would be preserved from the dragon. Okay, we get taken to America. 400 years occurs. 2019 is here. Not coincidence that COVID hit at that particular time and the borders were shut down, because that was typically the year of return. That was the actual jubilee. And if anyone understands the law, jubilee was when everyone that is a bondmaid or servant is supposed to be allowed to go back to their what? To their home. So that was by law. That is exactly what was supposed to happen. The children of Israel were supposed to be allowed to go back. But Hashatan didn't have that as something that he wanted to let go. He still wants to continue pushing the mystery Babylon and their agenda, right? So this is why the Father's he's gonna judge the nations that we serve, right? This is why this has to happen. And he's not gonna do anything new. He's gonna do the same thing that happened back in Babylon. He's gonna use other nations to judge the nations that had their hand in our captivity. And that's what this war is about. This is what we're seeing sparking up with Iran and Israel. Because these people that are in the land, they are not the children of Israel. These are the people that it speaks about in the book of Revelations that are the synagogue of Hashatan. So it's in your advantage, if you are a descendant of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, is to get yourself in this thing and figure out what position you're supposed to play. Because this chess game, it runs deep. And when you understand what position you play, you may find yourself part of the 144,000, right? But if we just want to go and, be spectators in this thing, know that broad is the way that leads to destruction, but narrow is the way that leads to life, and not many people will find it. Okay? So I only hope the message blesses you on this one. I'm starting to do a lot more of these freestyle chats slash scriptural breakdowns, only just because it gives some people who have got a short attention span time to actually digest what I've put on here. So may Yahweh bless you, may Yahweh keep you, may Yahweh cause his face to shine upon you, may Yahweh be gracious to you, may Yahweh lift up his countenance upon you, and may Yahweh grant you everlasting peace in Yeshua HaMashiach, I pray. Selah.